we really partnered together on raising the kids and had a lot of thoughtful conversations. We were really intentional with how we raised them. We spent time, even when they were really little, 3 and 4, before they, involving them in the family and what they wanted our family to look like. We bought them these piggy banks, and it had like, here's the money you put for what you're going to spend, what you're going to save, what you're going to invest, and then what you're going to donate. And so throughout their lives, we spent a lot of time talking about giving back to other people, about investing, and then also spending and saving for things. If they asked for something, we'd say, you have your piggy bank money. Do you have enough money saved for that? Is that something you're saving for, or is that something you want to spend your money on?
Today on the One Away Show, we sit down with Angela, a leader whose story begins with a moment most of us would have forgotten, but one she never could. At just 8 years old, during a simple exercise at Vacation Bible School, Angela stepped to the side of the room opposite of every other child, quietly signaling that her life, her experiences, and her instincts were profoundly different. That moment, standing alone, yet standing firm, became an early glimpse of guiding truth she would carry for decades. She could think for herself, even when the world expected her to move with the crowd. In this conversation, Angela opens up about a childhood marked by instability and trauma, and the grandparents who became her anchor and her inspiration. She reflects on how those early years shaped her confidence, her curiosity, and her determination to build a different kind of family, one grounded in intention, partnership, and shared values. We explore her path from politics to higher education to asset management, as well as her commitment to investing in women founders who are building what they wish existed. If you are ready for a story of resilience, clarity, and the courage to design a life on your own terms, stay with us. Angela brings heart, wisdom, and truth to every part of this conversation. Hello, Angela. Happy Friday. Welcome to the One Away Show.
Happy Friday. Thanks so much for having me, Brian.
Yeah. So Angela, what is your one away moment that you want to share with us today?
So I've thought about this since you first asked me before we scheduled, and there are a lot to choose from that kind of intersect in different ways throughout my life. But the one that I kept thinking about the most was from back when I was in 2nd or 3rd grade, and I was at Vacation Bible School over the summer, and the leaders of the class had set up all the kids. They were, I think, just trying to get the wiggles out. They were trying to get us up and moving. But one of them stood at one end of the class and one stood at the other. And they said, if your parents are the epitome of what you look at to your kind of North Star, like you listen to all their words, you follow their actions, you pay attention to everything they say, essentially they're the leaders for your life, come to this side of the room. And then there was a teacher on the other side of the room that said, if you really don't pay attention to anything your parents say, if you don't think the lessons are valuable, I don't even remember how they worded it, but come to this side of the room. It's very obvious that they expected everyone to move to the side of the room where they thought their parents were the most valuable people in their lives. And my guess is there was some kind of lesson about Jesus in there, and that we shouldn't be looking at our parents. We should be looking to Jesus for all of the answers. But I think I screwed up the whole session anyway, because everybody else went to the side of the room where they thought their parents were, the most wonderful thing to happen to them, their guiding star. And I went to the other side of the room. I didn't have a great childhood growing up, came from a fairly dysfunctional family. The reason I was at Vacation Bible School is because of my grandparents, because they helped raise me. Wonderful, wonderful people. But my mom always joked that she was a great bad example. So from that standpoint, I had kind of always seen the world through my own eyes, not through my mom's eyes or my parents' eyes. Unlike, I think, a lot of the peers, the kids in my class. And I remember one of the adults in the room even like leaning over to me saying, are you sure? Like, don't you at least want to move down a little bit closer to the other kids? Or surely your parents influence your life some, maybe there are other influences, but, surely your parents have a lot of influence over the decisions you make and how you live your life. And I remember at that moment thinking, why is it so important to this person that I say yes to that. So I've thought about this a lot throughout my life, and it's weird that this random Bible study classroom incident was important, but I think it was kind of a live action PowerPoint demonstration of the data of just how different I was from peers. And that's kind of shown over and over throughout my life in different ways and different, probably one away instances. But that was probably the first that made me stop and think, wow, it's interesting that everybody else is kind of thinking along the same lines and I think very differently. And even when an adult, someone that I look up to is trying to convince me that I should change my mind, I am able to stand my ground and think for myself. And today I cried myself in that in second or third grade, I did have to kind of stop and think, am I supposed to go move down with the rest of the kids? Like that, I know that'll make me seem more normal, but that's not what I actually believe.
Mm. Yeah. Wow. Well, first off, I appreciate the like such visual representation of how different you were, or how different maybe your belief sets were from your peers to your left and right, and then also the it sounds like your teacher who asked the question, was shocked in many ways as well, and kind of had a probably sense of curiosity. Two questions for you. How old were you when you went to Vacation Bible School? Just first sense around that.
It was second or third grade. I don't remember exactly, but probably 8,
Oh
9-ish.
wow. So you were only 8 or 9. So when this question was asked, and you had the self-awareness to realize things were different for you.
Yes. And that was probably the first time I mean, I knew my life had been different from other people's, but it was the first time I realized how different.
Hmm. I mean, if what were maybe if you don't mind sharing, at 8 or 9 years old, what were the things from your awareness that were happening, um, that you didn't make you move to the other side where all the other kids were? Like, what was visually happening on the home front that you knew something was a bit off?
Yeah, so, I know I kind of jokingly repeat what my mom has jokingly said all of her life, but she was really a good bad example. She made a lot of choices at a young age that impacted the trajectory of her life. She got pregnant at a very young age, so she had me just after she had turned 20, so she was, just a 19-year-old, but she had just barely turned 20 and had a new baby. Had my brother not long after, and dropped out of school, continued to make a lot of choices, even when my grandparents tried to support her later on when I was older so that she could go back to school and get a degree. She just continued to make choices that made her life difficult. Um, and we all have different lessons, I think, to learn in life, and hers has been hard. But my brother and I both, I think, decided at a pretty young age that we did not want our lives to be as difficult as hers was.
Mm, yeah. I can imagine that was really hard, having a mom who just wasn't equipped, just to certain life stages to really take care, of newborns. I mean, that's a lot of asking a lot of somebody at a young age in this world to handle. Um, and if you don't mind me asking on top of that, did you have a father that was present?
Well, we did. He was abusive. So when I was about 5 years old, I had to go to court. And, back in the 80s, because I'm a good bit older than you, back in the 80s, they really didn't prosecute abuse in the same way they do today. But it was severe enough that we took him to court. And so we lost all contact with him after I was about 5. And then my mom was married quite a few times after that. So there were a slew of men that were meant to be father figures, but really weren't until really the only one I would call my stepdad came into our lives when I was later on in middle school, and he was a great guy. But my grandparents, we lived with my grandparents for a few years, and even the years that we didn't live with them, we spent most weekends with them. They were a really great example, had a solid foundation. My granddad was an entrepreneur. He had some automotive parts businesses that eventually became Napa Auto Parts. And he taught me about investing in the stock market early. He taught me about entrepreneurship, even about when he sold his businesses to Napa, he still owned the underlying buildings and land. And so he talked to me about real estate. He taught me how to change the oil in a car. He taught me how to throw a curveball. He never treated me like a female in the deep South, and how I think a lot of even fathers treated their daughters. He really taught me anything and everything I was curious to ask about and learn. And he would also sit. I When I was in elementary school in like fourth grade, I won the spelling bee, which is unusual because it was usually the upper classmen that won. But I vividly remember him sitting in his office and just poring over words, like helping me memorize these different words for the spelling bee over and over and over. So he was really, I had, and I guess I didn't have an ideal childhood in some sense, but my grandparents were really solid and amazing people. So
Wow. Wow. That's super special. And those were your grandparents on your mom's side, I take it as well. Yeah, that makes sense. Holy moly. Yeah, you don't hear a story like this every day. I really appreciate the transparency. And I heard some stat or quote. It's like one of the most dangerous things for a child growing up is like a stepfather figure. And it's, yeah, I've heard different stories around that, and it sounds like you had your fair share of experiences behind your own situation with your own father. So you turned I look forward to getting to the end of the conversation. We have so much ground to cover. But one question that comes to mind is, you sound like you saw a lot by the time you were 8 years old. I mean, you probably outlived more traumas than most by the time they hit 40 in your first 8 years. So my question is to you, how did that shape how you showed up in the world? Like, how did that shape your awareness or the way you just like did things as like through childhood, and like your perception of how you navigated conversations and people? Like, how do you think that impacted you just on the day-to-day basis and the personality that you developed?
yeah, so I think situations like that a lot of times tear people down, and I'm grateful that I had a support system. My mom, even though we were going through some terrible times having to go to court, she was very supportive through the entire thing when she could have just broken down and run away. I had an aunt that was very supportive and my grandparents. And so I think for me, knowing that I came out on the other side of all of that okay gave me a lot of confidence in my own abilities. So I was actually always a pretty confident kid, even though I'd gone through some of these unimaginable tragedies. Um, it really didn't tear me down. It built me up so that I knew I could surmount anything.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, that's, I think, really special. Like, say I got through this and now I can get through whatever else is thrown at me. And the other question, like on that note, right? I think that, like, what about from a self-awareness perspective or like a social awareness perspective? I mean, because when you see all that, I mean, I don't want to speak for you. What did that do in terms of like the relationships that you made or how it influenced like social circles? Like, I'm just super curious on that dimension.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know that I've thought about that as much. I was always very extroverted, so I liked people and extremely curious. My grandmother, they were Southern Baptist, and my grandmother worked at the church, so she was the church secretary. And I think this stemmed from religion, but her favorite saying was curiosity killed the cat. So every time I asked a question, she would respond with curiosity killed the cat. And I don't know if that's because she just didn't know the answer, and so it was easier to say that or what. But today everyone applauds curiosity and really expects people to be curious. But back then, at least in my world, it was not celebrated. Um, but I was always really curious. And just like, I would ask my granddad when he was changing oil in a car, and he would show me how to change oil in a car. he played on a softball league for the church. And so I told him I wanted to play softball. And so he taught me how to be a pitcher. So just everywhere I went, I asked questions of how people did things, how they became certain ways. I was probably a lot like you, curious about people, and I love to hear their stories and how they got to where they were, what it took to get there. And I really soaked all of that up. I always did great in school. I was, I guess, an academic kid. I played sports, but I loved academia. But I think I really learned more outside of the classroom, just the people that I met and the interactions I had with people really framed what I learned, I think, more than the classroom did.
Yeah. No, super cool. I feel like you were the like just like the cool girl everyone wanted to be around, and you were different from everyone else. And your grandfather shaped you into just grandparents into just even though despite what you were had to go through on the true home front, uh, there were some good positives that came with it as well. So
Absolutely. Yes.
uh, so okay, I want to transition to when I first met you. I think you were about to drop your son off at college. Is that right?
My daughter,
Daughter, I'm sorry. Yes. Where'd she go again?
she's at Babson.
Babson. That's right. We talked about this.
Yeah.
Super cool. Yes. I remember asking you. So my question for you is, how did what you saw growing up influence how you as a mother and how were to, your daughter and things that transpired, I'm just curious. Yeah. Your far younger years. And, if I was maybe let me ask you it like this. If I was to ask your daughter to describe you as a mother, what do you think she'd say?
That's so funny. So before I answer that, I'll just say before it even got to having kids, it was really important to me to find a partner in life. I watched my mom struggle with that throughout her life, even still. And I was really serious about finding someone who would be 50-50, who, wasn't afraid to change diapers, that didn't care if I took out the trash or managed the finances, that really wanted a partner and that we would lead the household together. And I think growing up in the deep South made that even more important to me because a lot of the relationships I saw, the women were subordinate to the men. And I knew that's not what I wanted for my life or for my kids to see growing up. So I put a lot of emphasis on that. And I really did find a great partner. So my husband and I have been together for almost 20 years. It'll be 20 years this New Year's Eve. And we really partnered together on raising the kids and had a lot of thoughtful conversations. We were really intentional with how we raised them. We spent time, even when they were really little, 3 and 4, before they um, really knew any better, involving them in the family and what they wanted our family to look like. So we would have kind of family meetings and talk about what was important, every day we talked about kind of what they learned throughout the day, who they helped that day, what they saw, what experiences they had and what they felt. But then once or twice a year, we'd really sit down before Christmas and then usually once in the summer, and we'd talk about how are we doing as a family. And one of the ways we did that is we bought them these piggy banks, and it had like, here's the money you put for what you're going to spend, what you're going to save, what you're going to invest, and then what you're going to donate. And so throughout their lives, we spent a lot of time talking about giving back to other people, about investing, and then also spending and saving for things. If you want a car, you need to start saving for it. So both of our kids actually saved up for a car at 16, and they started when they were like 4 and 5 years old. So we told them we'd match whatever they saved to buy a car. And when Adeline got old enough to buy a car, we were like, wow, she's saved a lot. So we're going to have to match that. She got a pretty good car, but she didn't spend all of her money on it, luckily. But, as they were growing up, when we would go to Target, they didn't say, mommy, I want that, daddy, and beg or cry in the store like you see kids doing. If they asked for something, we'd say, you have your piggy bank money. Do you have enough money saved for that? Is that something you're saving for? Or is that something you want to spend your money on? And 99% of the time it was no, I really want to save for an iPad. I really want to save for a car. Like they started talking about their car at 16 years old when they were 5, like it was going to happen tomorrow. So I think if she used one word, it would probably be intentional because we really cared about raising global citizens. We really wanted them to care about other people, to think further than just what they want in the moment. And one of the things we really focused on as well is we tried to give them experiences, but we wanted them to know that they were special experiences and not everybody gets to have those. And we wanted them to really be able to learn, to meet people when we were having experiences, to really soak in new places and cultures. And I think that's one of the reasons Adeline was attracted to Babson. It has a really strong international presence, a lot of free thinkers because it attracts entrepreneurs. And I know my answer is going on forever, so feel free to interrupt me. But I do want to brag on her a little bit because as freshmen at Babson, all the kids started business. And it's a business that you start your freshman year, like first week of class, you start thinking about it and you have to shut it down at the end of the class. And throughout the first semester, they have a couple of points where they shut down the businesses that aren't doing as well and they collapse them, and the kids whose businesses get shut down go and work for the other businesses that are still running. And then right before Christmas, they narrow it down to 3 businesses that will continue on for the next semester. And all the kids work for those 3 businesses. So Adeline is one of the 3 businesses. So she's the CEO of a company with 25 employees now. And they've been dealing with tariffs and sourcing product from China. And it's been fascinating to watch. And I will say I've like teared up as a mom a couple of times because she'll call and be like, well, our group's getting together tomorrow. We're going to go to the aquarium for some team building. It's like, she didn't learn that in class. The other teens aren't doing that. She's just picked that up from life and from the people she's met. And we've also been fortunate that through YPO, she's met a lot of really great business owners who are intentional about how they lead their businesses as well. So it's fun to just watch her grow as a leader and the importance she places on the things that are important, the people.
It's incredible. I mean, I got chills a couple of times. I'm thinking about how efficient her P&L is and why the other kids have collapsed working for her because she learned the power of the piggy bank growing up. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. What's the business? If you want to keep, highlighting her, what is it?
Yeah, so it's hard to come up with something that you don't mind shutting down at the end of 1 year. So I do think it's hard for the kids to come up with something that they're not going to just love and want to do forever. But she came up with it's a stuffed animal that's weighted, kind of like the weighted blankets, and then it has a pouch that you can change out the scents. So it has different. Like you could do lavender if you have a headache, or you can put in scents that are holiday specific. So they can keep reselling, the different scents. So it's not just a one-time purchase.
All right. Super cool. Well, we'll have to put a link in the show notes if we forgot anything. This is about your daughter, not you. No, that's super. I love it's neat to see kind of from where you had your childhood and your own experiences and the intentionality that you were with your own kids, it sounds like, and see them go create in the world. Let me ask you a random question. Favorite, you said global citizens. I have to imagine you guys have traveled the world together. What's your favorite global destination you've gone on a family trip and why?
Ooh, that's so hard. I the kids have different answers because we ask them occasionally just to gauge what they're thinking. But I think Oman, it was probably the most unexpected. So it's beautiful. We went to this incredible wadi where you hike through and it looks like a miniature Grand Canyon. I mean, it's big, but it's a miniature version of what looks like the Grand Canyon in the US. And it opens up into this um, like crack in the earth. And our guide was like, okay, we're going to swim through this crack in the earth because it was water and then like literally a crack in the earth. And so we were all kind of like, our kids were little at the time. They were, I don't know, maybe 8 and 9. And so I was like, we can't see what's on the other side. We just met this tour guide. Like, are we all going to die? So we went, and there were parts where you had to swim under, and he was like, oh, the kids will be fine. And they were. But it was nerve wracking. But then it opens up into this just amazingly beautiful cavern where there's a huge waterfall. And I mean, just an amazing experience. And we wouldn't have had that if we hadn't gotten past our fear of, swimming into the unknown with, some random tour guide we had just recently met. But it was really just a magical experience and so unexpected. We really didn't know what to expect about Oman, but it was beautiful, lovely, lovely people. Everyone we met was just amazing and warm, and we ended up having dinner at this tour guide's house. Like, he invited us over, and so we had dinner with his whole family and met his kids and played with the goats outside. So it was really, really special.
Oh wow, it's probably the last place I was expecting you to say, but I love how cultural it was and the part of the world where it was, and that you dared to take your family there when most people would be like, "Yeah, let's go to the beach," or the. This is clearly an interesting spot, so that's awesome. Uh, okay, I'm getting like a. I feel like I'm like I can really get a feel for this family vibe. It feels so pure the way you're describing it, and uh, so fortunate for your kids, given what you navigated. So, at a professional level, I'm curious, Angela, given what you saw, you inspiration from your grandfather, and on the entrepreneurial side, you saw, at home, your maybe mother struggle in certain areas, and how did that influence like you in terms of what you wanted for yourself professionally and your aspirations for what you pursued?
Well, that's funny. When I was a kid, I wanted to be president of the United States, and I had another
Right.
kind of I had another teacher moment when I was in 6th grade, and they asked everybody to write a paper about what they wanted to be when they grew up, and I wrote about being president of the United States. And the teacher was going around as people were writing, and she looked at mine. She was like, "Oh, that's great, but kind of this was your introduction into big kid middle school, and so maybe you want to think about being a teacher, or." And I was like, I remember stopping and looking around the room and going, what in the world is she actually saying this to me? And I was like, no, I think I'd like to be president. And she was like, well, the point of the paper is to be writing about something that you really want to do with your life. And I was like, lady, this is what I really want to do with my life. So, I mean, I, it, I've had some amazing teachers that just poured life into me. So I hate that I've brought this up, but she was actually one of my favorite teachers, and I was really shocked that she would say something like that to me or to anybody. But I was also a really good student, so for a while I internalized that, and I was like, why would she? Like, does she really not think I can do it? And so I spent a lot of time thinking about that, and I probably shouldn't have. Um, but anyway, I did go on. I went to school and studied political science. I went and worked on the Hill, so I worked for a senator, and then I ran a congressional campaign. Very quickly after running the congressional campaign, I knew that was not what I wanted to do. Now I went in all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, thinking that's how I would make the world a better place, and quickly learned that, yeah, no, if you want to be a career politician, changing the world's almost impossible. That I could do that better in other ways. And so from that, I moved into other kinds of work. But yeah, I from a young age felt like I had the capability to make a difference, and I wanted to figure out the best way to do that.
And you know, I'm kind of bummed to hear this because I think 2028's right around the corner, and we could do a lot better. Um, so
I
this
think that ship has sailed. I think I can do a lot more good.
elsewhere, it's okay. It's okay. You probably would. You're gonna save at least 10 to 20 years on your life as well. So it's probably a big good for all. Um, Well, no, it's cool that you recognize though, or that you had such maybe self-awareness at a young age to say, hey, like I'm not gonna let this teacher limit my potential, and then maybe pursue the path to see could I do I want to do this? And really, obviously no, but at least you went down that alleyway to explore and see what you were all about. I think that's super important to explore your curiosities at a young age. So good on you. So, so what did that end up leading you to? You know, like it wasn't politics. So then what?
Yeah, so after that, I decided that I could make a bigger difference working in the nonprofit sector. And I worked for a couple of different nonprofits and then got into higher ed fundraising and running the boards that help manage the endowments for large academic institutions, which was really a great fit for me because there's no place like academia to quench curiosity. So I was always able to work with different faculty members who were working on amazing new ideas and labs that were working on new products and R&D, and then students who were starting to build their own businesses. So it was, I mean, really just beautiful way to spend a life working in and around higher education.
Mm. Wow. Seems yeah, it seems like you've always had a heartbeat for like the right thing for you that does good in the world that you could you can like shine at to a degree. So there you go. There's it's like the Ikigai model in a way, you know. I'm sure you're aware of it, but it seems like you found or arrived on some of those things earlier than most. Wow, very, very, very cool. If you're a founder looking to grow without raising capital or giving up control, Relent is built for you. Founded by entrepreneurs who've scaled without outside funding, Relent helps companies find and retain talent, lower operational costs, and reinvest in growth. We've hired nearly 10 team members through Relent and streamlined our entire cost structure, freeing up capital to put toward what matters most. Even small teams can set up offshore operations quickly, compliantly, and without heavy infrastructure. With deep expertise in the India-US corridor, Relent combines cultural fluency with operational rigor and guides everything from team design to long-term scaling. Grow on your terms and start with Relent. To learn more, visit relent.team/arcbound. When you think about your professional career so far and your family, like how have you navigated raising kids, being a very accomplished professional? Like what has kind of gone into that? I mean, you sound like intentionality and being there for your family has been top priority. You've also done some pretty amazing things in the world, but how have you maintained a sense of balance at home and, you know, as a mother and also as like pretty strong professional?
Yeah, that has not always been easy, but again, I give my husband Kevin a lot of credit. He's been a true partner through and through. We've moved around the world for jobs. We moved to Cambridge, England when I worked at the University of Cambridge, uprooted our family, sold all of our belongings, and so he's taken a lot of risks on me and my potential. Uh, so without his partnership, I wouldn't have been able to do any of this. So if there's one thing that I hope younger people learn from me, it's the importance of the life you build for yourself, including your partner. Um, so having him made all the difference in the world. I've traveled most of my career and we had kids. So he was at home with the kids when I would travel. He worked in IT most of his career. So he was able to work from home even before most people were working from home, which made a really big difference. But I mean, the work-life balance is not always easy. One of the jobs I took was with a large institution, and it was health sciences and medical school, and COVID happened. And when that happened, I was on the leadership team where in the mornings at 7 a.m. before everybody's normal work day started, there would be an all hands on deck for the handful of leaders to talk about just kind of what new insanity had ensued from the following day, including, what do we do with bodies when the morgue is full? And how do we source new respiratory equipment when there isn't any to be found? And Are there engineers nearby that can help us, you know, kind of create something out of tools and supplies we have on hand that might help replicate? I mean, it was just wild, some of the conversations we were having. So that was a really hard time and hard to find work life balance when everything is truly life or death and a real emergency. It was not long after that that I made the decision to leave higher ed and to work with a smaller company where I could really focus on my family, because we did go through some difficult periods with family members during that time that really made having our more extended family close by very important to us. We really needed the love and support, and we had not lived close to family since our kids were very like 2 and 3. So we really needed to kind of reclaim that extended family unit, and made the decision to move to Memphis to be closer to them. And I took on a very different role that's been amazing. And it was obviously meant to be another part of my journey, because it's just been additive and a great experience. But
Mm.
yeah, it's not always easy. I mean, I will say having a partner like Kevin made most of those years incredibly easy. But there are going to be years that you can't predict, and you really have a hard time managing around for because of circumstances outside of your control, like a COVID or something else happening, and it's hard.
So I want to build on that, and it's so cool. Like you speak about your husband. It sounds like he was the one at home with the kids more, and helping doing certain things as a true 50-50 partner. You said earlier in the episode though that um one of the things you first look for sounds like creating stability, given kind of how you grew up, but like finding a partner. How did you know? I mean, you guys have been at it since like 20 years, going strong. I'm sure it's not all of them sunshine and roses, but I mean, you sound like there's such an intentional pursuit to find someone who could be an equal. How did you know, or like, what did you see in him uh, to say, this decision makes sense for me? It sounds like at a fairly young age, from what I'm guessing here, but yeah, I'm just curious, like what stood out about him, and what did you see then that probably, it sounds like, become true now?
Yeah. So I have always listened to my intuition. And Kevin and I, you'll laugh because this doesn't sound very intentional, but it really was. We met and we became friends, for really close friends, very quickly. We met out in California at an Auburn alumni football tailgate kind of party. And we were friends for maybe 3 months, kind of hanging out off and on. Then we got to be really close friends. We dated for 3 months and got engaged. And then we were married about 3 months after that. So the day we got married, I think we had officially been dating for 6 months, and people thought we were crazy. So it was intentional. I think, both knew very early on, because we started out as friends. We knew different sides of one another than I think you sometimes know when you're starting out dating and you're not friends. We kind of asked the tough questions, and gotten to know each other in a different kind of way before we ever dated. He actually took me out for lunch one day before he asked me out on a date, and he was like, you know, everybody keeps saying that you and I should be together. He's like, but I don't want to ruin what we have, because you're my best friend. And, you know, what happens if this doesn't work out? And I was like, what happens if it does? He was like, well, he goes, I feel like we're either going to be married soon or probably not talk to each other again, because it will break my heart if we can't be friends. So luckily it all worked out, and we did end up married not long after that. But even he, like, in that conversation, was very intentional. So it was easy to tell very early on that he was a partner that I could be intentional with.
Mhm. Wow. Self-awareness for men. It sounds like they all need to take that from Taiwan.
Yes. Right. And I will say too, based on all of my friends that were looking for partners, I definitely found one in a million.
That's I feel like you guys need to do like, couples executive coaching because, you guys have your little couples executive coaching practice. Be good. Like the next Hoffman Institute. It's good.
Cool. Yeah.
That's cool. No, it's, I never know the direction of like where these conversations will go. And I think that's the beauty about them because, uh, some people take them one way, other people take them another. Some people, I mean, but it's been like really refreshing. Like feeling like I'm at like your dinner table, like hearing all about your like family story over some like Memphis barbecue, talking about how great Georgia football is.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So no, it's that's awesome. So like I guess so here's a question for you. You have a son as well, correct? You said
Two daughters.
he goes $2. Okay, you said a 3 and a 4 year old when you were talking earlier.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're really close in age. So Mallory, they're 18 months apart, but they're 2 years apart in school. So Mallory graduates next May, not this coming.
Okay, all right. So on this Mallory and Adeline. So is on this through line here of like intentional family design, which is I think a fun way to talk up this conversation. What do you see for like in the next 10 years, like for the family? Like how do you like what are the things that you want to build and shape and create formative experiences around?
So at this point, I think we are most excited just to see what the kids do with their lives. I mean, I think Adeline's well on her way to being a leader, and I imagine she's going to have her own business, and you're going to be interviewing her before long.
Yeah.
Mallory is really interested in the arts. She loves to write. She's interested in theater and film and very curious about AI and what that means for those industries. She's also our, you know, cuddly teddy bear who just loves people and wants to make a really big difference in the world. I could I could see her doing anything from producing a Broadway show all the way to starting a nonprofit that rescues dolphins or something. I mean, so I can't wait to see what she comes up with because I know it'll be creative and I know it'll be a way to make people happy and laugh and enjoy life a little bit more.
Wow, that's special. It's like you're co-creating with your daughters. Maybe they'll partner up. One is the business mind, one is the art mind, and together, I mean, it sounds like a powerful duo, you know?
You never know. Yeah.
I'm just, planting seeds into the world that they ask. Well, maybe I might get some ideas here. Uh, cool. And then for you, what about, I mean, maybe give us just a little background into your professional world today, what you're doing and who you're serving slash impacting. Would love to have the audience understand a little bit.
Yeah. So I run an asset management firm. We are US based and our investments are US small and mid cap companies. And we work with a lot of foundations, with a lot of nonprofits, with university endowments to invest their money so that it continues to grow, so they can all continue to do the great and wonderful things that they are best placed to do. And then my side hustle is I invest in female founders, and I love doing that. I've met some amazing female entrepreneurs, and it has taught me a lot. I've learned just how difficult it is to be in their shoes, and so any of the connections I can help them make through the people I know to help them build a stronger, more resilient business faster. I want to be a resource for that as well as an investor alongside their journey.
Oh, it's super cool. It seems like you got your hands in a couple pots that, keep you stimulated and, impactful work and investing other foundations, nonprofits, money. And just curious, what kind of companies through the asset company are you investing into?
So for the most part, it's public investments. So public companies that are in the mid cap space or the small cap space. It- a lot of them you would have never heard of because they're kind of nichey companies. Boot Barn might be one that you have heard of. They have retail locations around the U.S., but they sell kind of Western wear and boots that you would wear to work on job sites and things like that.
Nice, nice. Wow, seems like you're doing some really cool stuff. And I'm curious if, from a female investing perspective, are there any women investments that you've made that you want to maybe highlight here more publicly?
So there are a couple that I'm really excited about, but I'll tell you the one that I think I'm just so proud of her because she grew this business. It's called Skimpies, Skimpies. She grew it out of nothing. She created a whole new brand category that didn't exist before. She had breast cancer and went through a period of time where she was eliminating all chemicals from her life and realized how many chemicals are in leggings. So she was like, I'm trying to get to the gym and keep my body healthy and need to be careful of what I'm putting up against my body and the most sensitive parts of my body. So what she created is a thin strip that you can put in your leggings. And it's organic cotton, it's safe. And she she like found all of these different supplies and adhesives and talked to people around the world and created it herself. I mean, with like scissors and supplies you could find around the house, making prototypes until she could find someone who could produce it for her. And she didn't have any help along the way. So it was really just grit and determination. And this is something that needs to find its way into the world. And she's done it. And, your first year is the hardest, and she's making a profit and doing great. So she went viral on TikTok. And I think the universe kind of aligns around things when you're doing what you're passionate about and meant to be doing. And I think she's doing what she's meant to be doing.
Oh, it's amazing. It's cool to give someone that bridge or opportunity to pursue the dream, and who you become through it is pretty remarkable. So it's neat to empower this story, and ideally be a very profitable endeavor. Maybe it's like the next Sarah Blakely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Be great. Yeah. Sarah actually retweeted her a couple of months ago. So
right. Who knows?
collaboration in the future. You just never know.
Yeah, maybe Skimpy's in Sarah's new what's her new sneaker line? Yeah, Sneaks.
Yeah.
Sneaks. There we go. Sneaks and Skimpies.
Yep. There you go.
It calls some good energy into the world,
Yeah, that's exactly. I love it.
I know Sarah's like former creative director. She did stuff for him and Jesse. So maybe Amanda would be a good intro for your Skimpies. I'm saying it right, Skimpies?
Yeah, Skimpy. That's it.
Okay, all right, cool. Angela, this has been a pleasure. To close this out, what have I not asked you, or what has been left unsaid before we wrap?
Wow. You ask great questions. And I think I said earlier on, it's easy to tell you're curious and you really enjoy learning and knowing people. So I think you've asked really great questions. I don't feel like any stone went unturned.
Well, you didn't tell me your favorite Southern meal, so that one. So
Well, fried okra. Like I love fried okra. I love roasted okra too. So if you're not somewhere you can get fried okra, I do love roasted okra. But yeah, fried okra is love it.
all right.
Very Southern. Have you ever had fried okra?
At University of Georgia, yeah, it's pretty good. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's cool. Well, I'll let you know if I'm ever in Memphis, Tennessee, to get the family recipe. But Angela, this was a pleasure. So good to learn more about your journey and hear about your family, and we'll be super stoked to share this with the world.
Well, thank you. It was a really fun conversation. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us for this moving conversation with Angela. Today, we followed her journey from a childhood shaped by hardship to a life defined by intention, partnership, and purpose. We heard how a single moment in a crowded classroom revealed her independence, how her grandparents nurtured her curiosity and confidence, and how she channeled those early lessons into the way she leads, parents, and contributes to the world. Angela shared about building a marriage rooted in true partnership, raising daughters who are thoughtful global citizens, navigating crisis leadership during COVID, and finding renewed meaning through her work in asset management and her investments in female founders. Her story reminds us that resilience can be wisdom, that curiosity can become a compass, and that the family we build can rewrite the story we came from. If today's episode resonated with you, please share it, leave a review, and help us continue bringing these stories to light. New episodes drop every Tuesday and Friday. We'll see you next time.